What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Dad Needs to Talk. I'm your host Robert, and today we have a lot of stuff to catch up on. Lots of life stuff with the kids. Catching up on all the confusing stuff surrounding the Switch to reveal. My time playing South of Midnight, and a couple movies, a couple manga. But before I get into all that, as always, if this is your first time here, then welcome. But if you're a returning listener and or watcher, then welcome back. Y'all know here at Daddy's to Talk, it's all about fatherhood and family, manga, anime, TV shows, movies, and of course some video games. So, like I said, it has been uh, a couple of weeks since I last got a chance to record, and it has been very, very busy in the Daddy's to Talk household. Pretty much down to me getting ready to record. I'm getting ready to record a while ago, and I'm like, okay, I got everything set up. Making my little tabs for stuff I want to show later on or whatever. And Vash is, puking his little heart out or whatever. So we had to go get that situated, toss all his cover stuff and some of his sister's cover stuff in the washing machine just now. So I'm like, man, I'm like, can I never get a moment of peace? It is like literally something with somebody at all times. But I'm here, and I hope everybody out there is doing well. Like I said, it has been a couple of busy weeks for me. Some fun things, some frustrating things to talk about. Uh, I guess kind of starting out on a positive note, and of course, as always, I have timestamps for the different subjects and stuff. So if you want to hear me talk about the new the amateur movie, skip ahead, or South of Midnight, or Switch to, or some manga, whatever, all that stuff is down in the description below. But of course, we always start with some life talk and family updates and stuff. So on a positive note, I got a chance to be Uncle Robert again over this last week. So I have gotten a chance to hold two very tiny humans. uh, so starting off a week ago, uh, my wife's cousin, her baby is, I think she is like right around maybe like 6 months or so. And so the cousin and the baby came over to visit, and there was some sweetness mixed in with chaos because cause and I'll get into talking about the babies and stuff in a second, but it's like that particular day I come home from work, I knew that the baby was gonna be here visiting for a little bit, but then it was like my mother-in-law showed up, my wife's mother showed up, unexpected, unannounced. So it was okay, so she's here. And then it was like, oh, everybody's over here. Everybody as in three people. So then my wife invited her sister and their family and kids and stuff, whatever. So my already packed home of, I already have 8 people day to day, because like I mentioned before, it's me, my wife, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, and no, that's not enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids. We're up to 7. And then my wife's grandmother lives with us. So 8 people in my house day to day. So then you had the cousin and the baby. We're at 10. Mother-in-law, 11. And then my wife's sister, her boyfriend, 3 of their kids, and the cousin's father, boyfriend or whatever. So basically, when it was all said and done, I had like 16 people in my home unexpectedly. But all the kids was having fun, being around each other and stuff, whatever. I got a chance to hold a very tiny, adorable baby, and it was just kind of funny because it has been a really long time since I've held like a newborn baby. And it reminded me of simpler times back before my big head son Vash got as big as he is now. Because, man, whenever he falls asleep in my room or somewhere else in the house and I got to pick him up and tote him to bed or whatever, he is 7 going on 8. and it's like, yo, like I'm picking him up. He's like half my body length already. And so I'm like struggling, toting him to bed and stuff. But then I got to come home and pick up this tiny human that was just soft and squishy and light. But that was fun. And then yesterday on Sunday, I got to go visit my niece Sarah, which is my sister's oldest daughter, and I got to see my great niece for the first time in person. And my heart was so full getting to be great Uncle Robert now. And so it was just super awesome, just kind of getting a chance to just go spend time with my niece and her boyfriend and the baby and stuff, in their home, in their space. And yeah, just get a chance to just love on my great niece. It was just such a awesome time. I was over there for at least like, I don't know. I got over there like about 5, so I was over about 3 hours or so, 2 to 3 hours. But yeah, it was just so fun, just getting a chance to hold her. And now she'll be 3 months in a few days, so she was even smaller than the other baby I was holding last week. But yeah, it was just super awesome getting a chance to see my niece and see her be a mother and stuff now. And then and I got a chance to she uh, uh, video chatted with all of her siblings, so I got to talk to all of my sister's kids and stuff, and just seeing everybody just growing up and living their lives, doing their own thing in their own places and stuff. But yeah, so it was a super awesome way to wrap up my weekend, with spending time with my niece them and stuff. So shout out to them. Shout out to all the babies out there. But yeah, when I was holding my great niece, I was like, I got some. Actually, out of both babies, I got some smiles and some laughs. Uncle Robert, all the babies love Uncle Robert. But yeah, I was just loving on my little great niece, and I was just like, hey, when you get older, and you want to play some video games, hey, Uncle Robert, don't worry about mom and dad. Hey, come to Uncle Robert. Cause I just remember growing up, that was one of the things I loved, especially when it reached a point where I was a young adult working and stuff, and I was able to spoil all my nieces and nephews and buy them all the different game systems and different video games, and getting them into different anime and TV shows and all this stuff, whatever. And speaking of which, even like when I'm over there, you know, playing with the baby and stuff, like me and my niece were freaking talking about her journey catching up with One Piece and her asking for recommendations about other stuff. And yeah, it was just such a heartwarming time for me, just like I said, getting a chance to kind of just step back and just see some of these younger family members kind of like on the starting their family journey, whereas I'm a decade plus deep in this and stuff. So, but yeah, so that's it for the baby talk. So, um, aside from that, the big kids, all three of the older ones, all had basketball banquets, for their high school or for school or whatever. So we went to them. My son's was last week, and my daughter's was like a week or two before. So it was just nice, just kind of getting a chance to celebrate the kids and how they did in their first freshman season and stuff, and just kind of like looking ahead to the years to come, hopefully. So shout out to all my kids for all their hard work in this first year and stuff. Speaking of hard work, like all my kids did phenomenal. A couple weekends ago, they all had a tournament. I think it was out in Frisco, I believe, and yeah, everybody was doing their thing, and stuff, and like I think my oldest son, he had probably one of the best weekends he has ever had, at least like in a long time. Uh, Cause he had uh it was just like record breaking for him. So I think he had like a 20 something point game like that Saturday, earlier that Saturday, and then that night, those of y'all watching the video version on YouTube or whatever, I think this game he had 35 Saturday night, and then Sunday morning he had a 40 something point game. So so he was, balling his butt off, but I'm super proud of him, and just kind of him seeing the fruits of his labor and stuff, man. Just for all the work he's been putting in and stuff. It's been paying off and stuff, and so yeah, it was just very encouraging to to see that uh, with him and stuff, and hold on, let me see if I can find it real quick. And even one of my daughters, she had a really nice uh, clutch jump shot in one of her games that same weekend. So yeah, so shout out to all my babies and stuff. Yeah, they was out there balling the other weekend and stuff, and so they got another big thing coming up this weekend. But yeah, I always like to brag on my babies and show off their hard work and stuff. But yeah, so sports stuff's good. Uh, Last little thing I'm gonna share, then I'm gonna get into all the games and shows and stuff, whatever. Well, I guess two couple of things, whatever. So for one, and this was I definitely I need to do another raising child athletes dedicated episode like one that I did many years ago and stuff. So, but uh, but yeah, I kind of had to have a conversation with a coach the other week with her because my son he guest played with the team last week and stuff, and it's kind of a newer team, a little bit. Some of the guys are younger, but anywho, it was just kind of a conversation of just kind of having to, uh, it's always interesting just because of the fact of like, you know, the coach was like, man, like, I don't know if it's you or your wife or who's training him and da 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 da, and it was just kind of a conversation of like, it's honestly a culmination of years of work because I'm like he is 16 and he's been doing this since he was about 6. So 10 years, lots of great coaches and mentors and people that have helped build him up along the way over the years into the person, the athlete that you see now. But yeah, so it was a like I said, just a nice little conversation I had to have with somebody, just kind of you know giving some background on on our journey and stuff. So, but anyway, that'll be a deeper story for another time. So, last little thing. So I had to go into to angry dad mode this weekend. So a few weeks ago, one of my daughters, so basically months ago, we were kind of doing a bunch of like phone upgrades and different things with a bunch of people in the house or whatever. And so when my wife was getting ready to get a new phone, my daughter wanted her old phone, and so the phone was still functional, but it was a little bit dinged up and stuff. And one of the main things was like the back of the phone, like the glass on the back was starting like to crack and stuff with it. So I knew it started getting really bad. So we took it by. Actually, no. So my daughter was at the mall. That's what it was. She was at the mall hanging out with her friends, and for some reason her phone did something funky. And in a panic, she found this one of those like phone repair kiosk little stands in the middle of the mall or whatever, and took it to the guy, whatever, in a panic or whatever. And the first thing was, at first, she called from a friend's phone, being like, "Hey, my phone was acting weird. It wouldn't turn on or nothing, whatever." So I took it to this shop thing, whatever, and just asked for help or opinions, whatever. And then but of course, my daughter was like, "Well, obviously, I don't have any money, blah blah blah." And so at first, she was like, the guy's not giving me my phone back. And so me and my wife went up, rolled up there, whatever. But by the time we got there, she got the phone back. But we had a conversation with the guy, whatever, and they ended up saying that they were going to fix it. Now, this is where the trouble started. So they said that normally, it'd probably take a couple of days, which we would have been fine with, but they were like, hey, give us some time, give us about like 30, 45 minutes, whatever, and we'll have it ready. We're like, okay, we didn't say, hey, get it done now. Y'all put that expectation on yourselves. So anyway, so we went and did something where we came back and they were like, sorry, give us another 15 minutes. Okay, we left, came back, another 15. So they kept extending the time, whatever. So anywho, we get it back. It looks good. Okay, cool. We go about our business. And less than 2 weeks later, the back of it started like chipping away and stuff again or whatever. And so once again, my daughter was going up to the mall anyways, hang out with her friends and stuff. So I'm like, okay, cool, I'll go with you so I can take it back to the guy, talk to him, whatever. So I show up and I'm like, hey, blah, 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 the phone, da, da, da. And he basically was like, well, basically gonna charge again because it's like, well, we fixed it or whatever, and you broke it, and it was like, well, last time when we brought it in, that was the result of like years of it like slowly chipping away. I'm like, this is less than 2 weeks, and it's already like really bad. And so we were going back and forth or whatever, and then he was trying to be like, well, I'll only charge you, $90 and da da da. And I'm like, dude, like we paid, I couldn't remember the number at first. I knew it was like well over 100 something or whatever. And then, and then, long story short, we found out uh, that it was actually over $200. And so, like I said, I'm going back and forth with the dude or whatever, and we talking and stuff, whatever. And I'm about ready to just be like, no, because I'm like, why am I going to basically, if I'm paying you another $90, we're like going over close to $300 that I've put into this old phone that I would have rather just put into investing in just getting a new one or getting an upgrade or whatever the case may be, whatever. And so I'm getting frustrated, whatever. And so we're talking. My hands are kind of like on the counter or whatever. And the guy he has like a little like the little tiny metal screwdrivers that you work on phones and small electronics and stuff, whatever. And so I think he might have been doing it subconsciously, but still, he was tapping it on my hand, and I blew a gasket. I'm like, yo, like, why are you hitting me with the screwdriver? And he's, oh no, I'm sorry, sir. I was just trying to be friendly. I'm like, being friendly by hitting me with a screwdriver, dude. Like, I was livid. And those of y'all that know me, I am pretty calm most of the time. I'm the chill dude. I don't like no drama. I don't like getting into no mess with them. But I'm like, hey, enough. And so I'm like, by this point, I'm like, yo, I'm done. I'm like, you know what? And he was trying to like, well, okay, hey, well, I'll only do it for 60. I'm like, no, like, I've already put all this money, da, 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 da. And I'm like, now you hit me with a damn screwdriver. And I'm like, dude, like, I'm just gonna take my phone and I'm just gonna leave a review and be done with this place, whatever. And so he no, he kind of caught up to me, whatever, as I was walking away. And basically he pulled up the last purchase because he was like, hey, did you pay cash or card? I'm like, we paid with card. I gave a name. And he looked at it now. I think this is where pieces started falling together, whatever. So he pulled it up and he saw how much it was, which the real amount was even more than what me and my wife was remembering. And so, like I said, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, it was, got close to like 200 or whatever. And so he was like, hey, okay, I'll do it for free. And I'm like, for free, no charge. And he's like, yes, for free, basically sign up good faith or whatever. And so, I'm like, okay. And once again, he said 30 minutes. So I pull out my phone and he sees me. I did like 31 minutes or something, whatever, and I hit start. And I'm like, you're timing? And I'm like, yeah. But I'm like, it's not necessarily for this. I said, it's for a reminder for myself. And I said, and plus, I need to let my daughter know. My daughter, I know where she is right now, around the corner. But I'm like, I need to let her know, because right now, she's in the mall with no phone. If she's trying to find me or whatever, I just need to at least like go and let her know, like, hey, this is what's going on with your phone. I'll be back in about 30 minutes or blah, blah, blah. And so I ended up going out to the car just to kind of cool off, whatever. I called my wife, tell her about everything, whatever. So come to find out, she looks at the charger, whatever, and it was like close to 250. So now I'm looking at reviews for the place, whatever, on the mall website or whatever. Come to find out, they have a nasty habit of overcharging people and not telling, like they'll tell you one amount or whatever, and you might even see it, but then when you check your bank statement or whatever, you have an extra amount on there or whatever. And so they have been notorious for that or whatever. And so I think that's what spooked him, was between seeing what they actually charged us when he looked up the receipt or whatever in his system. And then when I mentioned about leaving a review, seeing some of the one-star reviews that they've gotten, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm reading some of the stuff. I'm like, this is the same mess where somebody's, oh yeah, I'm gonna get, I'm gonna get a case and a screen protector, and then okay, it's okay. You say it's X amount, and then I'll look at my account. You didn't charge me double, triple the price that you said. So anywho, your boy was hot, but he lucked out. He got as much time as he needed, because when my timer went off at 30 minutes, I just went and just started it up, because I'm like, you know what? I already know how this is gonna go. I'm gonna go in there. They're gonna be like, hey, give us another 15, another 15. So I was like, I'll just wait a bit. And things worked out where my son needed to be picked up from the rec center, him and his buddy, to get taken home. So I'm like, okay, well, my daughter's fine at the mall. I just ran, took them or whatever. And by the time I did all this, whatever, it had been well over an hour since I originally dropped it off. So I went up there, got the phone, and he kind of gave like a sad puppy dog, put his little fist out. I gave him like a tiny little fist bump, took the phone and walked off. I didn't even say nothing else. I was just like, yeah, I am done. So yeah, so I'm still thinking of how I'm gonna type up this review, but yeah, Dad Needs to Talk was not happy. But it is funny thing about, like, in some alternate world, I'd be like, did you not know who I am? I am Dad Needs to Talk. They're like, who? But anyway, enough of the shenanigans and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of like been like a glimpse of the insanity on the highs and the lows from enjoying sweet newborn babies to angry phone repair stuff and kids vomiting in between. Uh, but anywho, so let's kind of jump into some of this game stuff. So I'm trying to think where to start. Okay, so I guess I'll start with something simple that I don't really care too much about, but just for just general information purposes. So Bungie has a new game called Marathon. Now it's based off of a old IP, or yeah, so Marathon is like an older series that they originally worked on like back in like the 90s or something, whatever. I'm not too familiar with it, but I've heard the name before. So anywho, they're doing a new game kind of like in that universe, whatever. So it is going to be a PvP VE extraction shooter type of game, and it's going to be coming out on Steam, PlayStation 5, and Xbox with full crossplay and cross save on September 23rd of this year. Now they are doing signups for like a alpha trial test thing, whatever. That's going to be happening, I think, next week, and it's going to be lasting for like a week or two. So if you're interested, look that up, go check it out. But as far as myself, like, uh, I might try to get into like to the alpha or whatever, just to download it and play around it or whatever. But honestly, just from like that reveal that they did on Saturday or whatever, like visual and stuff, whatever, it looks cool. And I know that the gameplay and stuff is gonna be solid, because all of Bungie stuff, from old school Halo to Destiny, like the gunplay and stuff is really good in their stuff. But I just know that this isn't going to be anything for me. So sadly, I was hoping that maybe there would be some type of like story mode or something that might, be for somebody like me, but I don't really do too many online type of things, whatever. Even though they say like you can do up to like I think it's like is it like a 3-person squad, um, 3 or 4-person squad? I can't remember. Um, or you can run it solo or whatever. But yeah. But yeah, check it out. Like I said, marathon is coming uh later this year. But like I said, probably not gonna be nothing that's gonna be for me. So next up, I don't have any images or nothing for this. Let me check. Let me see. Okay, so there was a demo for this game coming out next month called Metal Eden. It's like a fast paced kind of like a first person shooter. So there's a demo for this out right now. I had played it or whatever. It was pretty fun. Kind of reminded me a little bit of like Titanfall as far as like with like the wall running, kind of like the fast pacedness of the game and stuff. But yeah, so it comes out May 6th on PS5, Xbox, Steam and stuff, whatever. But yeah, like I said, it might be something that might be worth putting on your radar, or like I said, at least checking out the demo for it. So like I said, I played the demo and enjoyed it. So it was pretty solid. So all right, so I want to kind of dive into just a little bit. I'm not going to belabor the point, but I have to give my 2 cents on this switch to chaos because going into this event last week, I'm like, okay, this should be the easiest slam dunk in Nintendo history. Is like the Switch was so successful, and hey, this looks like it's just hey a bigger, newer, better, Switch with a lot of extra bells and whistles of what people have been asking for. And so it is that in some sense, but there was just so much confusion and drama after this announcement. And it kind of makes me it really kind of made me like take a step back and reflect on some things. Just kind of thinking of like the nature of like people that specialize in like live tweeting or live updates on different things as they're happening was the Switch 2 reveal and the following last week or two was a prime example of why sometimes it is best to wait and see and let the dust settle on things before running out and stuff. Because honestly, originally, before I even got to this review, I was like, you know what? I was like, maybe I'll do like a special emergency podcast episode just talking about the Switch 2 reveal or whatever. And I'm glad I did not because, like I said, it was just so much confusion and misinformation. And like some of the podcasts that I listened to, whatever, it was just like out the gate. I'm like listening to stuff. I'm like, okay, I can tell when that episode, when whoever recorded their podcast episode, based off of the misinformation that they were reading about or whatever. And so, but anyway, so on the baseline, so Switch 2 is coming out June 5th. So just a little couple months away or whatever. So June 5th of this year. At least in the US, it is going to be priced at $450 for just the system itself, or there's a $500 bundle that comes with Mario Kart World. Now the Switch itself has a bigger screen. It is a 7.9 screen, I believe, versus the 6 point whatever of the original Switch. Uh, it's got, it's an LCD display, supports HDR, VRR, which is variable refresh rate, and supports up to 120 FPS for some of the games and stuff, which is pretty cool. Has a new dock, so when it's docked, it can do 4K on the TV and stuff. Um, they, shut off the system, like I said, all the different features and stuff. Uh, the Joy Cons have a magnetic grip and stuff, so it's kind of like magnetizes to the side of the Switch and stuff now, which is pretty interesting. And you can use the Joy Cons as a mouse, so it has a really cool little optical sensor on it to where you can use it as a mouse. So that'd be pretty cool to kind of see how they kind of utilize that or whatever. I know, of course, like they already showed like Metroid Prime 4 can be played with it as a mouse because it'll run it, 1080p, or maybe even 1440p, 120 frames, all that stuff. So pretty cool tech wise. They added a chat feature to the system, which is basically kind of like an ingrained uh, like a Discord or whatever, because you can video chat with people and you can share your gameplay, share your screen so you can see, or so you can show up on the game or whatever. Or if you're just in a party chat with people and y'all can be playing different games and you can share your gameplay of whatever game you're playing as you're having conversations and stuff. They will sell a camera for it, or you can use your own camera as long as it's a USB-C webcam, but it's just pretty much compatible with any of them. Though the chat feature, which also is dumb, is free until March of 2026. By which, if you don't play for Switch Online, then that C button isn't gonna work, and just be a pretty much a dead button that won't do anything. So yeah, so that's that. It's going to use a different type of mic. It's going to be use a micro SD express card. The system will come with 256 gigabytes of internal storage, and that can be expanded via the SD cards. What other stuff? I can't think what other little features and stuff, but that is most of the primary features and stuff. Um, yeah, that's most of the primary features and stuff. Now, game wise, so some of the main ones. So they showed off Mario Kart World. That'll be launch day. Donkey Kong Bonanza. That's going to be coming out in July, and this game looks pretty cool. It looks like it's made by the Mario Odyssey development team, possibly whatever. But that game looks super cool. Um, of course, like I said, they showed off Metroid. They announced a new Kirby Air Riders. I never played the original, so I have no frame of reference. A new Hyrule Warriors. This wheelchair basketball game called Drag and Drive. Now, the concept is pretty interesting because you play this with the mouse feature of the Joy-Cons, because you scroll the mice in a way of like rolling in a wheelchair and stuff. But one thing I do wish, though, I wish that they kind of gave like the characters, and I hope that maybe in the full game there is more to this, but like what they showed in that initial trailer, it just looks so drab and gray. It's like, where's the Nintendo flavor? Where's the colors and stuff? Cause like even like Arms, when that came out with on the Switch launch window or whatever, you had all these cool and colorful designed characters, but Drag and Drive, it's like everybody just looks just gray, literally, and stuff. For them is like the arenas and stuff don't look nothing too crazy, or whatever. And it's like, ugh, come on now, y'all. Like I said, hopefully maybe that'll change, but if that's how they chose to debut the footage or whatever, I don't have too many high hopes for it. Uh, Switch Welcome Tour. Originally, when they showed this, a lot of people was kind of hoping that maybe this would be like their version of Astrobot, how Astro's Playroom was a pack-in on PS5 for free, whereas a neat little platformer where you pretty much played inside of a PS5 and you got a chance to learn a bunch of different features and stuff of the system. Well, this is not that. It's pretty much like a virtual exhibition to familiarize you with the inner workings and stuff of the Switch 2, but it's not free. I think it's like $10, like $6 to $10, whatever. It's not a lot, but still for what it is, it's like, come on now, y'all. Like, give something. And then the other kind of like crazy big reveal was the Dusk Bloods. So this is a new game from Software, and it is going to be a Switch 2 exclusive coming next year. But the sad thing though is that it's like an online thing. I think this might also be a PvPvE thing, kind of like a marathon, but that kind of took the wind out of a lot of people's sails and stuff because honestly, it definitely had the whole Bloodborne vibe and aesthetic and stuff, whatever. So a lot of people were hyped for it. But then it was like, oh, Switch 2 exclusive, okay. And then, like I said, later on when it came out, oh, it's a multiplayer thing. So, like, interest started kept going down and down and down. And I feel like that is kind of like the perfect explanation of this whole thing was the presentation overall seemed okay, but the first red flag was when the presentation ended and they didn't say the price during the stream and they're like, oh, check our website later for more information. And that's when just like the crap started hitting the fan because it's like it was like false information about, oh, it's gonna be this price for digital and then $10 more for physical and yada yada yada. Not true, all that stuff. Now I will say the pricing on these games is kind of looking crazy because the first one was Mario Kart World. It's gonna be $80, 80 buckaroos. And Donkey Kong is gonna be 70. And so they are doing like Switch 2 versions of a lot of their games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are getting Switch 2 versions where basically they're gonna have 4K HDR supported, higher frame rates, and all this different stuff, whatever. But I think even like those versions are gonna be like $80 and stuff. There's some stuff like the Mario Party, Jamboree, and Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Those are getting like fully new expansions and stuff coming out with them. But even then, it's like y'all are charging freaking 70, $80 for this game that is years old. It's like, yes, it's getting DLC, but it's like yeah, like those prices was looking crazy. And honestly, for most people, the best launch thing to get is going to be get the $500 bundle with Mario Kart World, assuming if you're interested in Mario Kart, which would probably be a high percentage of people at launch, because it's like, are you going to pay $450 for the Switch and then $80 separate for the game, or you get them together and save $30 pretty much. So I think that's what a lot of people are going to be going for. But yeah, so all that mess was happening, and then of course in the midst, like I think like the same day that this announcement was happening was when the chaos with all the tariffs and stuff started going into effect. And so then right now, so the Switch 2 pre-orders were supposed to open on the 9th. It is now the 14th. They delayed it here in North America and Canada and stuff, just because they're trying to wait and see how things are gonna kind of shake out with all this tariff stuff with the prices and everything. So yeah, so it was just a crazy couple of weeks of just misinformation, or like I said, like Nintendo not coming out and being fully transparent on certain things, and of course people having to go out and do their own research, and thus leading to even more confusion and stuff because it's like, okay, how much is the upgrade pack? And oh, if you have Switch Online, you get the upgrades for free and all this stuff. What is the other thing? Game share. So that's some other positives out of this. So game share is something where basically only one person that has a Switch 2 need to just own a copy of the game, and then certain games will allow you to share them with other people in the room. So like example, like Mario Party. only one person needs to own it, and everybody else in the room, if there's like, if my son has his Switch and we have a third Switch or whatever, a friend over, well, I can share my game with the other devices or whatever, and they can still play off of my one copy. So that's a pretty cool uh, little feature and stuff. Another thing, yeah, but of course, like I said, it selects games as expected. The other thing is this virtual game card thing, which seems like you can turn your digital copies of your games into basically a virtual game card, and basically with that you can move it between, if like me, I have two switches right now, two regular switches. So example, if I had two Switch twos or whatever, and I'm playing one, my son's playing the other one or whatever. Well, if he wants to play a game, I can just eject it out of mine and put it on his. The other thing too is that you can loan out games to people within your family plan. But it's got a 14-day limit. So example, if like one of my nephews, if we were all in a Switch um, family plan thing, whatever together, then if they're over to visit or I go over to their house and like, ooh, Uncle Robert, I want to try out whatever game it is, whatever, Pokemon. And okay, cool. Hey, I'll basically you can loan them a digital copy, and even if they're not around, hey, I'm at his house. Here you go. And I go back home. Well, in 14 days, it's gonna automatically uh, revoke that license from him and put it back in my library. So pretty interesting little concept that they are doing with that. Um, but yeah, but all in all, though, like I said, this whole Switch to mess could have been handled so much better. Like I said, it was just so frustrating just seeing so many people be misinformed, or like I said, just depending on when you might have been recording on your podcast, whatever, you might, you know, you might record today and then your episode doesn't come out, might post Wednesday or later in the week. Well, in the days between you recording and your podcast going up, you're already outdated because this stuff was changing by the day, by the hour in some cases, where some people literally like new information came out like hours after somebody had already recorded, and so it's like yeah, so it was just a crazy moving target. But that's kind of what shied me away from even doing anything regarding talking about Switch 2 and stuff for a couple of weeks, because I'm like, ain't no point in me talking about this or whatever when stuff might change or whatever. So I'm like, you know what, I'm already, I was already busy and stuff for this. I didn't really have time to record anyways lately. But I'm like, well, perfect timing, because it's like, well, I'll just hang on for a little bit until some of this information and stuff kind of gets ironed out. But yeah, so we'll see. I don't know if I'm a try to get one at launch, or if I might wait a little bit and pick one up later. I'm still kind of um, undecided on that aspect, but eventually I will get one, just because most game systems I have most of everything, and I like kind of being on the forefront of new gaming devices and stuff. For the most part, obviously, like I don't have any of like the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally or whatever. Now, if I had the extra disposable income, yeah, I probably would have more of those devices, just for my own knowledge sake, or whatever, to kind of give myself more access to more games and stuff to play, whatever and stuff. So, but anywho, so that is the chaos of the Switch 2 and everything surrounding it is announcement and stuff. So, but yeah, so we'll see. Okay, so next game I want to shine a little bit of light on is it's a game called South of Midnight. Now, this is made by Compulsion Games, who the first time I ever heard about them, I'm gonna see if they have it on this part of their website. They did a game. Let me see if they have it. Do they got a picture of it? But it was a game that was a launch game on PlayStation 4 called Contrast. That I enjoyed, really cool game. But yeah, so they did Contrast, and then they did We Happy Few. I think my wife liked playing that one. But yeah, so here we are now at South of Midnight. So this game automatically grabbed my attention. A mix between the art style, because it kind of has like this like stop motion um look and vibe to it, but basically you play as this young lady named Hazel, and the story takes place in southern, basically Louisiana, without saying it's Louisiana, but it takes place in the deep south. And basically, this big storm comes through, and things happen to her home, and you are basically on a journey to try to find somebody and some things. And so basically, Hazel ends up discovering that she is basically what's known as a weaver, and she can see these threads, and basically she starts fighting these crazy creatures called haunts. And it's just a journey kind of going through like some like southern folklore type of uh stories and stuff. And so far, I don't know like hour wise how many hours I've put into the game, but I will say that I know that the game has maybe roughly 14 chapters, and so I am on chapter 8 or 9, I believe. So I'm definitely like past the halfway point of the game. But yeah, just the look and vibe. Obviously, I'm in the South, I'm in Texas, whatever, but y'all know I've talked about before. I grew up in Jasper, which is in deep southeast Texas, and a lot of family on my maternal grandmother's side of the family is in Louisiana. So a lot of my youth, I would be out in Louisiana visiting family, um, doing different things and stuff, whatever, out that way. But yeah, so just the whole theme and the music, the setting, everything was like this is something for Robert to play, and so I've definitely been enjoying it. Now it's not perfect, but the highlights of the game, I would say, is for sure the setting, the story, the art style, and visuals and stuff. Because it's a very beautiful game, and uh, yeah, the story, art style, and the location and stuff, the setting. Now, the gameplay, it is pretty solid. It's not its best feature, I would say, but it's kind of like a pretty basic um, hack and slash type of combat where you have your light attack, kind of a heavy attack, some ranged attacks, um, and it gets the job done. But there are times where it feels a little clunky playing, which bums me out a little bit because I'm like the vast majority of this game I enjoy so much. Now I will say, story wise, there are some story beats that hit along the way that uh, touch on some very dark themes and stuff that might be a bit much for some people. Just being honest, because it's some. I'll just say you can probably imagine, because of it being a game that takes place in the deep south. You're playing as a young black girl, like saying like a Louisiana type of setting and stuff, whatever. You probably have an idea of like some traumatic, you know, uh, some mixture like some racial things, and just general things that that somebody that is black and as a minority might be familiar with certain themes and stuff. So I kind of leave it vaguish like that. But yeah, but there are like so definitely some topics and things that happen with some of these side characters and stuff that you meet along the way they can be a bit tough. But like I said, all in all, though, I'm enjoying the game. I'm definitely looking forward to finishing it up. Hopefully over this next week, I'll continue to chip away at it and stuff. Cause it's kind of structured in kind of like a nice little like bite-sized way, to where I'll play through. I think like that first night I played through I think 2 chapters or whatever, but ever since then I would play through maybe a chapter at a time, and that was kind of like a nice little pace for me of playing through a chapter, because that would be maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that, or whatever for a chapter. Sometimes there was one I just played earlier. It was like super short. It was pretty much just like an exploration and traverse section. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm already on to the next chapter. Okay, cool. But um, but yeah. So like I said, the story and the setting are the biggest things for this game that I've really enjoyed. But yeah, so it is currently out on Xbox and PC. It is a Xbox first party title, which means that it is on Xbox Game Pass, which is how I am playing it. So yeah, so me and my wife have been kind of tussling over the Xbox these last few days, because she has found herself going through yet another playthrough of Fallout 4. And so sometimes, I'll be playing the game and I'll pause it because I got to go pick up somebody from practice or whatever, or go run an errand. Then I come back and she done hopped on playing Fallout again and stuff. So, but anywho, and she's waiting for her turn. She's wanting to play it too, so that's why she hasn't been watching my gameplay too closely, just to avoid spoiling things for herself. But I will say I am appreciative of this being a shorter game. So when I heard it, I'm like, oh, okay, it's 14 chapters or whatever. So originally, because I guess I was doing my math wrong, I was like, okay, it was taking me about an hour per chapter. But I'm like, nah, it definitely hasn't been that long. And like I said, especially when I'm like, oh, I'm already at chapter 8 or 9. So, but yeah, it's definitely very doable. Honestly, you probably could knock this out in probably like a weekend or whatever, if you have like a fully clear weekend. I think it's under 10 hours long, I believe. But like I said, that is music to my ears, because I can't do too many long games like I used to back in the day and stuff. So, but yeah, but I will report back, hopefully soon, whenever I finish up the game. But yeah, I definitely had to show it some love and spotlight it and stuff, on this episode. Now, let me see. So that's it for the game stuff. So, shows and movies. So, couple of things. So, Daredevil season finale is tomorrow, I believe. Yeah, because today's Monday. So, yeah, so tomorrow. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how they wrap up season one of the new Daredevil show. But I've been enjoying it. I've pretty much been watching it every week as it comes out. Uh, the next thing I just wanted to shout out really quickly is The Last of Us. HBO season 2 show started this week. Me and my wife watched episode 1 last night, and it was pretty solid. Of course, just like season 1, they have shifted and kind of tweaked some things, so it's not going to be a one for one retelling of the game, just like how the first one, but they will hit the big plot points, whatever. But I will say it was kind of interesting. I'll put timestamps on this, where I will kind of talk about a little bit of mild spoilers and stuff for this, but it was interesting watching this episode and kind of seeing how they changed some stuff around. Because, like, prime example, we've already met Abby and stuff, and we already have seen or heard the connection of, they showed them burying the doctor and lots of other people that Joel took out on his rampage to the hospital at the end of, the first game / season 1. Um, but they gave a little bit of motivation of who these characters are as far as Abby and her crew. But I don't think that they had said specifically like the fine point of why she is so upset. It's not just oh they killed a bunch of people, whatever, but a certain connection. So it'd be interesting to see how they tackle that. I will say I do like. I think I like Dina a little bit more. Not saying I didn't like her in the game, but I like that in the show we kind of get more time to explore and be with these characters and stuff. And so the actor that's playing Dina in this TV show is doing a phenomenal job. She is really capturing the essence of Dina and her personality and stuff, whatever. But I like that we kind of get to see more of kind of like the beginning stages of her and Ellie's relationship and stuff, kind of blossoming and growing and things like that. Um, I like that we kind of get to see more around town stuff with Jackson as far as like, okay, we know in the game that Joel is in some type of like leadership role or whatever, but we gotta kind of get to see more of these side conversations like with him and Dina and then him, tinkering around with stuff, whatever, doing repairs on stuff. Kind of like a little bit of like the type of work he was doing pre fall out of the world back in the day. But yeah, but all in all though, it was a really solid first episode to return back to. So no complaints there from me. Like I said, I am me and many other people that have played the games. I think we are all just very interested to see how they handle certain big moments and stuff. And as far as like, are they going to do it right off the bat in the next couple of episodes? Or are they going to stretch it out and do it later? So I don't know. It'll be just kind of like I said, just kind of interesting seeing how they tackle things. I will say shout out to the creepy scene with that new stalker clicker variant. Yeah, they did the thing with it in the show of it just slowly creeping around. In the back as Ellie is making her way, trying to figure out how to get out of this like lower level of this like a apartment or department store or whatever. But yeah, all in all, I am I'm cool with that first episode, and I look forward to every Sunday night. Hopefully, me and my wife is sitting down to watch it. So, but yeah, so next up from that, so I finally found my way back to the movie theater, and I got to see The Amateur, starring Rami Malek. Uh, Now, I got a chance to go watch. I spoiled myself a little bit. I went and saw this in Dolby, and I'll say this movie was super fun. And his character truly speaks to my soul because so the crux of this show or of the movie is that basically Rami Malek's character, he is basically like a technical. He's on like the more technical, like security, cybersecurity type of side of the I believe it's the CIA, and so he's working on some different things, whatever. And then I'll just say there will be spoilers for the movie. Whatever, I'm gonna try to keep it vague up front, but there will be spoilers. But something happens to where basically he has to go track down some people. But of course, he is not a combative person. He uses more of his mind and his intellect to figure out ways of outsmarting, tracking down these people, whatever. But he does it in a smart, but also a little bit of a clumsy way along the way. So that's kind of like a spoiler free explanation, but now I gotta talk more specifically about it. So his wife gets killed while she's traveling overseas, and obviously he is furious, and so he basically is one of the people that helped build and design the tracking stuff that the CIA uses, where he is able to tap into all these different security cameras and phones and all this stuff, whatever, to help him track and pinpoint people and stuff. So anywho, so he ends up discovering who the few people were that were involved with uh, trying to rob this place and then taking hostages and then thus leading to his wife getting killed. And so thus begins his globe-trotting journey to track these people down. And so, like I said, this just spoke to my soul so much because just so many different little aspects. I liked how he was using his resources to track down these people, but of course, doing it in a very clumsy way because even that first lady he ends up tracking down, uh, at first, he gets into her apartment, and I love that he was looking at a freaking YouTube video of how to pick a lock. So he showed up with the tools and stuff to do it, and then he had his video, his phone. He pressed play, and it was like, "Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm gonna be showing you how to pick a standard apartment lock." And so he's watching, looking at the video while he's tinkering and stuff, whatever. And me and a couple other people that was like sitting in a few seats over from me were all just dying laughing because it's like, really, dude. But yeah, he's doing little goofy stuff like that. When he tries to take out a person, he does it in the most clumsy way because like the same lady whose apartment he broke into, or whatever. So he when he was trying to find stuff, whatever, they came home earlier than expected. He ends up taking their gun and he sneaks at their apartment, goes up a few floors, and he aims the gun at them. Like, okay, I'm gonna take them out, but he can't pull the trigger, and he's so flustered over it or whatever. And so he ends up finding out that she has an allergy thing or whatever, and goes to this like special facility where they do testing or whatever. So anywho, he shuts down the computer system, gets the doctors to leave the room to go investigate. He comes in, locks the door, and she's in like this glass box. Kind of remember like the freaking glass box that Joe uses in the TV show You, but way smaller. And so he locks her in there, and he sucks up some freaking pollen into her. So she's down there choking to death. And he's like, "Tell me, where are they? Tell me where they are." Not really, not Batman, but but he doing this stuff, whatever. And then basically he falls for the okie doke, as they say, of like, okay, well, all right, I don't want to hurt you too bad, so I'm gonna let you out so we can talk. And of course, he unlocks that door, and the woman goes into fight or flight mode. They tussling, wrestling over stuff, whatever. And eventually she escapes out the room. And so he's chasing her through the hospital or the facility or whatever. And then she runs out. They run outside, and she runs out into traffic. And then a van, boom, she got isekai'd, sent upstairs. And so he's freaking out because he's like, oh my God, that really happened. She is really dead. And so, but from there, he kind of was doing it a little bit more. It still kind of putting a big signal flare of like, hey, I'm over here effing some stuff up. Hey, CIA, I know y'all told me not to go, and I snuck off with my fake passport and stuff, whatever. But hey, dead body over here, and stuff. So, but yeah. So all in all, though, it was a really cool movie. Like I said, I really just, like I said, it just spoke to me just because I know, like, even like myself, I'm not that much of a physical Tesla and stuff, whatever, but I probably would be the person that would be on my computer or using my gadgets and my brain to try to figure out a smaller, smarter way to track this person down or to harm them or take them out or whatever the case may be or whatever. But yeah, so good stuff, like really, really good stuff. And I'm glad that the wait paid off because this has been my most anticipated movie for the first part of the year for a while, and I'm glad it did not disappoint. And so, yeah, so that is The Amateur. So and I do gotta say, shout out to how it all wrapped up. So it kind of, for me, wrapped up in a good way, to where he tracked down all these other people, whatever. And I love how he quote unquote gets captured when he's trying to find the final guy, the person who actually pulled the trigger, and they bring him up on the boat because he kind of stays on this boat, always on the move or whatever, and so they kind of have this moment where they come face to face, or whatever, and the guy basically is like tells him that he's not a killer, literally hands him a gun and is like, "Go ahead," and he can't do it. And so, but the amount of time that they spent talking and going back and forth or whatever, this thing he put into motion before he even got there had already taken control of the boat and steered it into, I think, like Icelandic territory or whatever, which now the National Guard and all these different security people, whatever, can now come and capture the dude or whatever. So it was pretty cool how up to the very end he outsmarted people. And that situation kind of led to the cleaning up of the CIA and all that stuff, of getting some of the bad apples out of there and stuff. So, but and also I gotta say shout out to I did not expect freaking John Bernthal, aka the Punisher, to be in this. He's only in it for a couple of scenes or whatever, but it was cool seeing him. And then the lady that plays Sinatra in Paradise, the Hulu show, she was the like the head, like the new head of the CIA. So it was pretty cool. I'm like, yo, they got Punisher and Sinatra in the Amateur. But yeah, all in all, this was a good movie. This was a good time. So next up on the radar, hopefully, my wife's birthday is in a couple of days, so hopefully we can do like a little date night and go out to dinner, and then we get to go see Sinners, the new Michael B. Jordan, kind of like a action vampire-ish type of movie. So we're excited to go and see that because I was interested a little bit, and then I was like, well, I want to do some stuff with my wife for her birthday. So I texted, I was like, hey, we haven't done a movie night in a while, both of us. Um, and she was like, oh, what's out? And I sent her the poster. I was like, that Michael B. Jordan, Sinners, and she was like, ooh, I'm down. And so yeah, so we're kind of still trying to work out the planning and stuff, but that one is definitely one that we hope to get to this weekend. So, all right. So anime wise, I don't have too much I'm going to touch on today because I've already been going for an hour, and I kind of want to wrap this up before I get too late. But one thing I will mention though is that my middle son Andre, I think, he's 12. So a couple weeks ago, he finished watching Boruto. So he watched all 200, however many plus episodes of Boruto. He is interested in me getting him a Shonen Jump subscription because he wants to start reading the manga for Boruto. So I'm like, it's kind of funny how back in the day growing up, Naruto was my gateway into manga because I was watching the anime on Toonami, and then the episodes were going so slow, and I found out online. I'm like, ooh, they got so much more in Japanese and subbed overseas. There are hundreds of episodes ahead of us. Okay, cool. I switched over to watching subs. Then once again, I got caught up again. And then I'm like, ooh, there's a book, a manga that this is based off of. Okay. So I found that, and then that was my first time getting into reading manga. But it was so yeah. So he watched all of Boruto. He enjoyed it. And now he is watching Hunter x Hunter. So he was kind of like looking for recommendations for stuff, whatever. And I was trying to go through, and I can't remember if he had mentioned it or if I think I might have mentioned it or whatever. But yeah, so he's about 20 something episodes into it so far. He pretty much watches it periodically, after school, and then for sure when he's like laying down, getting ready for bed, he'll turn it on and watch it. So matter of fact, when I went to check on him earlier and stuff, he had fell asleep watching the episode. So yeah, so shout out to him. Continue his little anime journey. Uh, Aside from that, I had finished. Hold on, let me see if I can find what other stuff I had finished recently? Because I think I already touched on some of these. I finished watching Dan Machi, aka Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon, season 5. That was really good. I really enjoyed that one. Uh, Medalist. I think I talked about that. I still want to do a separate review for Medalist at some point. Um, I went back and I finished watching Headhunted in Another World. That was pretty cool. Okay, yeah, that was it. Okay, so spring stuff for it. Like I said, I'm gonna keep this very brief because I'm gonna probably do a separate episode for this in the coming weeks. But anime wise for the winter season, so far, uh, obviously like Apothecary Diaries is still going. That's super awesome. Fire Force season 3 started. Uh, so some of the standouts, I'm gonna kind of just focus on. Oh, My Hero Academia Vigilantes, man. I've only watched the first episode. I'll probably maybe watch the second episode when I get ready to go to bed in a little bit. But like, man, it looks so good. They did such a awesome job bringing this manga to life. So yeah, so shout out to Vigilantes. The Underwear Atelier Meister has been kind of a nice comfort watch on Sunday mornings. Windbreaker season 2, that's back. Um, Kowloon Generic Romance, that has been one that I've been tentatively interested in. So that is one that I've seen the manga for years. Very beautiful manga covers. I always say it when I go to the store. And then when I heard they were doing an anime, I'm like, okay, cool. And so far it's been solid. I'm gonna give it a benefit of the doubt now because I heard that they were planning on squeezing in like several volumes worth into like 13 episodes and they're gonna do like an anime only ending thing. I don't know how true that is. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just watch and just judge for myself once I watch the whole season, and just kind of go from there. Uh, One of the main standouts is this show, To Be Hero X. This show, I don't even know how to describe it. I'm getting sleepy, so I might say that for another day. But this is one to watch. Put on your radar and watch it. They do some really cool stuff with like the art style changes and different things like that. And I'm gonna kind of keep it vague. But To Be Hero is a pleasant surprise because honestly, it wasn't really on my radar too much. I think I remember seeing like a trailer or something for it a while back, but didn't think too much about it or whatever. But yeah, it's been dope. Couple other ones I want to just shout out. The Two Perfect Saint is another kind of like a heartwarming show to watch. And then this The Brilliant Healer's New Life in the Shadows. That's another one that I have high hopes for because that first episode was okay, but it feels like episode 2 should have been the real episode 1. But the way episode 2 was, I was like, okay, yeah, okay, because I was already interested from like the trailers and the synopsis before it came out. But that first episode, I was kind of like, y'all pacing is weird. But they got together in the second half, and then that second episode was really good. So, but like I said, a lot of the stuff, like I said, I'll do deeper dives on in the coming weeks and stuff. But just wanted just to give a quick shout out to that stuff. And then a couple of manga I just wanted to shout out very briefly before I wrap this up because it's 11:45. So let's get the show wrapped up in a minute. Okay, so manga wise, so I finally picked up Asadora, which this is by Naoki Urasawa, and you're like, why does that name sound familiar? It's because that is what I've had behind me all these years, is his 20th Century Boys manga, which was one of the very first manga I ever bought when I started the podcast and began my collection with volume 1 of that. But yeah, so Asadora, and he also created Monster and Pluto and all those dope anime and manga series. So Asadora. So interesting story between me and these 2 volumes. So there is a FYE store in the mall here, And they have had copies of Volume 1 and 2 for probably over a year now. So, and I forgot if I mentioned, but yeah, Asadora is the current manga that he is writing, so it's still ongoing right now. I think they're up to like volume 8 or something. But anyway, so these have been in there for a couple of, at least a good year, if not longer. And I don't go to the mall very often, and I definitely don't go into that store very often. But every time I do, I pass by it, and they both had big 50% off stickers on each. Now, retail is $14.99, so $15. So half off, okay, $7 and some change, $7, $8. Well, I had went in there with my wife like a few weeks ago, a month ago, whatever, and I looked at him at a comment. I was like, I need to just want to just pay to pull the triggers. I'm like, clearly, this is a very niche series, so it's probably not gonna leave until I buy it. And so I made that comment to my wife, and she was like, "Well, yeah, man, maybe, maybe next time, whatever." So anyway, so we were in there recently, whatever, and then we were getting some other stuff, whatever, and she was like, "Robert, just here. If you don't buy it, I'm gonna buy it for you." So she's like, "Where are these mangas at?" So she bought it for me. But the cool thing is that so they were already 50% off per volume, but there was also a buy one get one half off sale. So I got both of these for under $15. Pretty much, because if it was, yeah, 15, half of 15 is about 7 and some change, and then half of that is 4 and some change. So yeah, I got it for under $14. If, like I said, maybe like 13 or so. So yeah, but anyway, so I read volume 1. So basically, I'm trying to think, do they have a synopsis for this? They do not. So basically, so this starts off following this young girl named Asa. She is one of, oof, they have a lot of kids. I can't remember how many, but I think it's like 7, 8 kids. It's like some crazy number. And so she made a comment about how, her family always forgets about her because she doesn't have a memorable name and stuff, whatever. So, anywho, so there's a big storm coming, and her mother is going into labor. So she's trying to find the doctor, whatever. And she's like, "Hey, doctor, mom's in labor." So the doctor goes, and she's like, "Hey, I'll catch up. I need to go check for some stuff, whatever." So she ends up getting stranded and ends up with this, or she ends up getting kidnapped. What am I saying? By this seemingly crazy old guy, or whatever. But as you go throughout the volume and they talk and stuff, because they had nothing but time, because they both get trapped and stranded in the storm together, find out that he's a former army veteran that used to fly planes back in the day. And so, anywho, they end up finding a plane, working together to try to not only find out what happened to her home, because when they come out of hiding and investigate the storm, like their whole area has been decimated by the storm, flooded, houses destroyed, all this stuff. But yeah, so they end up working together to try to bring relief and supplies to people and stuff. So, but there seems to be some potential Bigfooted, maybe a kaiju, lurking, maybe that they see a footprint of as they flying over the area. But anyway, I'm intrigued, and I look forward to reading the volume 2 and then maybe going from there. But I had to shout out Asadora because I finally got it after years of staring at it. Now, this last one I'm going to touch on. This one is called War of the Adults. Now, this is one I knew nothing about going into it or whatever, but man. So, this one basically starts off following this young man who, wants to grow up to be a proper adult, so to speak. But tragedy strikes where he ends up going out to save, I can't remember if it was an animal or a cat. Yes, a cat. And ends up, getting hit by a truck and ends up in a coma for 15 years. And so when he wakes up from the coma, basically society has changed. He is now freaking in his 30s now. So he is an adult, but society has changed. Um, all inspired by his heroism. But now there is a legal system that determines if you are a proper adult or not. And so now they have basically integrated into the whole society cameras that watch everybody at all times. People can pretty much just like watching live Twitch streams of everybody and their day-to-day lives and stuff, whatever. And people watching you, whatever, making comments and different things like that, whatever, all feed into this system that determines, okay, you're a proper adult or you're not, or you're a level 5 adult or whatever the case may be, crazy stuff. But yeah, it was kind of crazy when they got to that real reveal of the cameras and stuff, whatever, because he's having dinner with the guy that pretty much uh, found him after getting hit, and he had his little, proper adults, how to be a proper adult little handbook he was writing out or whatever. He took that as inspiration and made it a freaking government sanctioned thing. And so yeah, so it's pretty interesting, this world and situation that they're in. But I had to shout it out, and because like this whole thing, whatever they were doing at the meeting, I was like, what is that? And that's kind of like the, hey, we're watching, everybody's watching. Truly, everybody's watching. But yeah, man, it is like everything you do, there's cameras everywhere. But anyway, just wanted to shout out those couple of things before I wrap things up. Yeah, because it's about to be midnight. So so yeah, so I think that's, I'm looking through my little notes, and yeah, that's the main things I want to touch on. So thank you as always for watching and or listening. Uh, I'll be recording again sometime soon. Like I said, I definitely want to do a dedicated review for Medalist, that anime, because it was just so fantastic. And like I said, I definitely I'm gonna try to finish up South of Midnight this week, and maybe also, like I said, go and see that Sinners movie and stuff. So, but yeah, so lots of cool things on the horizon coming. And yeah, y'all let me know what y'all think of everything. What did y'all think of the Switch 2 reveal? Are you playing South of Midnight? Did you go and see The Amateur? Have you seen Last of Us new episode? Or anything in between? I know I covered a lot of stuff. It's a long episode. But yeah, but just shout out to everybody out there for continuing to show love and support. Despite me having my long breaks between episodes, but I just try to pace myself and prioritize life and family and stuff as much as I can. But with that being said, I am out. You can find me everywhere at Danny's Talk. And as I always say, shoot yourself to something nice, like I finally did. Read some manga, watch some anime, TV shows, movies, and of course, play some video games and live your best life. And with that, I am out. Y'all be awesome. I will catch you on the next one. Great Uncle Rob is out. Peace.